Are you able to see the screen? 1 second. Okay.
Yes, we can see.
So we'll see hash code for objects. Okay, how we can generate hash code and how it works for objects. Now, I'm going to create objects for this class. Okay, so how to create an object for the class? H1 is equal to new H2 is equal to this. And now H3 is equal to H1. So I have created three objects, H1, H2, H3. Can someone tell me which two objects are same? That means which two objects are equal. So we have created three objects, H1, H2, H3. Among these three, I can guarantee say that two objects are equal. So which are those two? Can somebody try that one?
H1 and H3.
Yes. Let's see that system.out.println will print the hash. First, we'll print the hash code of all these three objects. Then we'll see why those two are equal. So the hash code of H1 is H1 dot hash code. For H2 is H2 dot hash code. And for H3 is H3 dot hash code. Okay. So we'll run this program and see what is the hash code generated. So the hash code for H1 is this one, for H2 is this one, and for H3 is again equal to H1. So here we are assigning an object to another object. So that is why the hash codes of these objects will be same. When we use this new keyword, new memory will be allocated and new hash code will be generated. So that is why the hash, even though they are pointing to the same class, the objects are created for the same class, but there will be a difference in the hash code. Okay, so we are using the new keyword, so new memory will be allocated for these objects. So this will act, these two will act as two different objects for the same class. That is why, so but in the third case, we are not creating any new memory. We are pointing to the already existing memory. We are pointing to already existing memory. So that is why in the third case, it will not allocate any new memory. It will point to H1 only. Even we are creating H3 object, but it will point to same H1. That is why the hash code of H1 and H3 objects will be the same. Now, if you want to compare, if you want to compare these two objects, so if H1 equal to H2, so I'll write the objects are same or the objects are equal. Else if H2, H1 equal to H3, then system.out.println H1 and H3 are equal. Okay. So if you run this program, it will print H1 and H3 are equal. Suppose I am creating an object for some other class, not this class. I'm trying to create an object for, let me create an object for array list demo or hash code demo. Okay. So hash code demo, this is one of the class. For this class, I'm going to create an object in this class. So is equal to new hash code demo. And now I'm trying to compare this object with the already existing objects. Can somebody tell me the output? Okay, let me remove this one, or else okay. If H1 is equal to H4, I'm trying to check this condition here. So the two objects are equal. Okay. So will this, so here itself it is throwing a compilation error. So it is not allowing us to compare these two. So if you check here, what is the issue here? Now, see, incompatible operand types or hash code objects and hash code demo. So this type of comparison is not allowed. So I want to show you what are different possibilities, how the hash equals method of equals method is designed. So it is not even allowing you to compare the objects of two different classes. So H4 is an object of class hash code demo. H1 is an object of class hash code objects. So this type of comparison itself, it is not allowing to do. It is a compilation error. Okay. So this is not allowed. And one more thing, suppose if I'm assigning this H3 to null, null means which is empty, nothing is there. So that null means nothing, nothing is available. So I'm creating an object H3, but I'm equating it to null. So in that case, if you are trying to compare an object, see, H1 is an object which is created. I'm comparing it with an object which is null. So then what will happen? So in the here at line number 17, I'm comparing the object H1 with null. Okay. So H1 with null. Let's see what will happen. It is showing an exception. Null pointer exception cannot invoke object dot hash code because H3 is null. So we'll not be able to access this h3 dot hash code method because h3 is null. For null objects, we cannot invoke. Invoke means call. We cannot call hash code object for h3. h3 which is null. So that is the error it is showing. That means the object's hash code method will not be will not be called if the object is null. If the object is null, the hash code method will not be called. So that is the issue here. Okay. Suppose I am removing this one. I am removing this one. Okay. For now, let me remove the calling of hash code method for the third object. Okay. And save this program. So it is not printing anything. It is not printing anything here. So this is not a valid scenario where we are comparing the object with null. This is not a valid scenario. So I'm trying to say you discuss all the concepts behind how they have implemented the hash code method. So hash code method will not be called whenever an object is null, and comparing an object with null is not a valid scenario. Okay. So this is one thing. And we have to check the the class which, sorry, the class, the object created for the class. So classes should be matching. So in this case, the class of this object is hashcode demo for H4. For H1, the class of the object is hashcode objects. So all these points will come into picture when we are going to design the equals method for hash code. Okay. So all these points we need to remember. We will Today we will see how to write code, how to generate hash code by ourselves, and how to write equals method. How to write equals method also. We will try to override both of them like hash code. Generally, this hash code method will be available in object class, which is superior to all the classes. So if you click on F3 button, so this is present in object class. Hash code is present in object class. It is the keyword they have you. The return type is int, because whenever an hash code is generated, it will return only integers. That is the main concept behind hashing, converting an object or a string to equivalent integer, unique integer it has to generate. So the return type of hash code will always be integer. And why they have used this native is for encapsulation. They are hiding the implementation, how this method has been implemented, that has been hidden. So if you see this, this is an abstract class, it's an abstract method. No implementation is available. Implementation is not available. And that too, it is not available in the native programming language. It is available in some other programming language that is done in the class where they have implemented this object class, because this is an abstract method. Implementation will not be available, abstract methods. Okay, so that is the thing which they have done here. And in this object class, we will have one more method called equals method, which will return a Boolean value. That means if two objects are equal, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. That means it always returns a Boolean value, either true or false. In this method, what they are doing, so they will be comparing the object which called this method with the parameter which we are passing. So this will have the object information which is currently calling this method, and whatever parameter we passed, object parameter we passed, these two things will be compared. If they both are equal, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So this is the basic thing they have done in the objects hash code and equals method. So this is the equals method which they have written in the object. So whenever you are comparing this one, so h1 equal to h2, what it will compare? H1 and h2 objects it will compare. Or otherwise you can write like this: if h1 dot equals h2. Okay, if I am writing like this, what does this mean? What does this will hold? So if I am writing like this, h1 dot equals of h2, we are comparing h1 with h2. We are checking if h1 object is equal to h2 object or not. So as of now, equals method is available in object class. So whenever I call this method equals method, then it will invoke the equals method of object class. So this method will be called. This method will be called. So in this method, what does this will hold? The keyword this will hold the information of h1, because h1 is the object which is calling equals method. H1 is the object, h1 dot. So h1 is calling this method, equals method. So this keyword will hold the information of h1. So here we are comparing h1 is equal to, what is the parameter that we are passing? Obj parameter. Obj means whatever the parameter we are passing h2. H1, using H1 we are calling equals method. To that equals method, we are passing a parameter called h2. So this keyword will hold the information of h1, and obj will contain the information of h2. So finally, what is happening here? It is checking if h1 is equal to h2. So that is what we are doing at line number 15. At line number 15, we are doing the same thing. So line number 21 means internally, it is calling line number 15. Internally in objects class. So in object class, if you are using this equals method, internally, this is only happening. Okay. This is what is happening internally. So These are the few things that you need to remember. Now, if I run this program, nothing, no output will be displayed because we made H3 as null. So let me make it as H1 again. Now, let's see. Okay, so this is what it is happening. This is for simple objects. Now, what if we have parameters? That means parameters, if you have parameters here, so you want to pass some parameters here for this constructor. Whenever you are creating an object, so if there is any default constructor, that will be invoked. Otherwise, if you want to use any parameterized constructor, in that case, how would these objects work? Okay, let's see that example as well. Let me create one more class here. I don't want to use public static void over there. So here I'll create two variables. So just observe the code first. Int other string name. Let me create a parameterized constructor. So I want to create a constructor using these fields, Aadhaar and name. So that should be public. So click on generate. Okay. It has created a constructor like this. So this is the default constructor. Parameterized constructor, which will act, allow, which needs these two parameters to be passed. Okay. So I'll remove this super keyword. No need of this for now. Okay, these are the two parameters that we need to pass for this class. When you are creating an object to this class, you need to pass two parameters. One is Aadhaar number and another one is name. Okay, for now, let me save this one and go to the first one. Okay, here I want to create an object for hashcode parameters. Hashcode parameters class. For this one, I want to create objects. HP1 is equal to new hash code parameters. So first one is Aadhaar. I want to pass Aadhaar, which is an integer. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 is an Aadhaar, and name of that name for that Aadhaar is, suppose, Vaswit. I gave this name. So the second case, second object, I want to create it like this. HP2. I am using the new keyword hash code parameters. And to this, I want to pass the same Aadhaar, but with different name. Okay. Aadhaar is same, but name is different. So you observe these two things. Here, the Aadhaar first parameter is same. There is a difference in second parameter. Okay. Now, if I want to compare these two objects, if HP1 equal to HP2, then I would print the two objects are equal, else system.out.println, the two objects are different. Let me save this one, and here let me print the star, differentiate these two. Can someone tell me either if block will be executed or else block will be executed?
Else block will be executed.
Else block. Okay. Let's see. Yes. Suppose if the name is also same, two parameters are also equal. See, Aadhaar is same for these two objects. Even the name is also, the strings is also equal. In this case, can someone tell me which block will be executed, if block or else block?
If block.
Block. Okay, let me try. See the output. See the output. The two objects are different. So, whenever you use this new keyword, new object will be created, new hash code will be created. Even though the values are same, the parameters are same, but still the hash code generated will be different. So if I print the hash code of these two objects, system.out.println, the hash code of HP1 is HP1.hashcode, and for HP2 is HP2.hashcode. If I run this program now, see, these are two different objects. Even though the parameters are same, but still you are using the new keyword, right? So whenever you use a new keyword, new object will be created, and the hash code generated, new hash code will be generated for those objects. Now the same thing we'll check here. Hash code parameters HP3 is equal to HP1. Okay, and let me save this program. And if I compare HP1 with HP3, now tell me the output of these things, where either if block will be executed or else block will be executed in this case. Let me run this program. Now it will say HP1 is equal to HP3. Why it is happening like this? Even though the content is same, but why it is showing like this? Why it is not making HP1 equal to HP2? But in the case of strings, suppose string, yesterday we have seen one example for strings, right? So let me open that. In this program, the hash code generated for these two is same, but even though the hash code is same, the content of these two strings are different, right? So that is why the equals method returned that the two strings are different, right? In this example, whatever we have discussed yesterday, the hash code generated is same for these two strings. But when you compared with equals method, it returned that these two strings are different. Why? Because in strings, it will compare the content. It will compare the content. The equals method is not only present in the object class. So in the object class, there is a drawback. In the object class equals method, there is a drawback. So that is, what is the drawback? It will compare the references, the address locations. So let me show you clearly. So here, this is HP1. We used new keyword and created an object. This is HP2. We used new keyword and created second object. This is HP3. We are not using any keyword, new keyword. We are directly equating to HP1. So these are the objects, okay? I'll tell you the difference between the objects and strings. So in this objects, what will happen if you are comparing two things? If HP1 is equal to HP2, suppose these are the two different memory locations. So you used new. So this will be HP1 and this will be HP2. But for HP3, you are not creating any new object. You are pointing to already existing object. So you are pointing H3 to HP1. So what will a comparison equals method of objects will do is, it will compare the address locations of the objects. Suppose this is located at address location 1000. This is located at 1100. So what it will do? It will compare the addresses. It will not compare the content. It will not compare the content. It will compare the address locations. So whenever you do this operation, if you are performing the equals method for objects, it will compare the references. That means the addresses. So here HP1 will be replaced with 1000 and it will compare with what is HP2. It will take the address of HP2, which is 1100. So these two are not equal. So it will print objects are different. So objects are different. The same thing if you do with HP3. So if you are comparing HP3 with HP1, the addresses both are pointing to the same address location. So it will compare 1000 if it is equal to 1000. So these are as these are pointing to the same address location, it will say that these objects are equal. So objects are equal. So this is the thing which will happen in objects. But whereas in strings, so this drawback is there in the strings. It is not comparing the content. So this object is the superclass. It is not comparing the content. It is comparing only the address locations. So in order to overcome the drawback in equals method of objects, what they have done in strings class, they have overridden equals method. They have overridden the equals method. What they have done is, first they will compare the address locations. Suppose I have two strings. String X is equal to capital A, small a. String Y is equal to capital B, capital B. Okay, the content is different. So that is why we maintain the strings in string constant pool, not in heap memory. We maintain strings in string constant pool. Okay, so X will store the value AA. So this is capital A, small a. This is the address location X, and B Y will contain the content of B and B. First, when you write, if X dot equals of Y, if you are calling this method X dot equals of method, it will not call the equals method of objects, because we have overridden the equals method in strings class. In string class, we have one more equals method we have overridden from the superclass. It will not call the superclass equals method. It will call this equals method of the string. So this is strings equal method. So first what it will do is, in this equals method, first it will check the address locations. If these two addresses are same or not. If they are not equal, then there itself it will return that the two strings are not equal. First, it will check addresses, because we already know in string constant pool, if the content is same, suppose we have one more string like Z is equal to again AA, it will not create new object. This Z will point to the same address location. Z also will point to the same address location X. We have already discussed this concept. So first it will check the addresses. If the addresses are different, then directly it will say, so if addresses are different, it will say that strings are not equal. Strings are different. If addresses are same, suppose X and Z are pointing to the same address, X and Z are pointing to the same address, then what will do? It will check the content. It will check the content. It will check the content of X and it will check the content of Z. Content also will be checked. Content of the strings also will be checked. Whereas in objects, it will not check the content. That is the drawback. So in strings class, they have overridden this equals method. In this equals method, first they will check the addresses. The addresses are equal. Then they will go and check the content. Then they will go and check the content. So this is the overridden method in equals. Sorry, this is the overridden method equals in strings. So first, in order to check the content, what it will do? First it will, so if it want to check the content, first what it will do? It will generate the hash code. If the hash codes are different, then directly we can say strings are different. But if the hash codes are also same, then if the content, if the address location is same and the hash code is same, then only it will declare that the two strings are equal. Then only it will declare that two strings are equal. Otherwise, the two strings are different. I will show you the difference between the equals method of string and equals method of object. Object is the superclass for all the classes. We already know. In Java, objects is the superclass for all the classes. In this class, equals method is just comparing the address locations. Only this part we are doing it here. Only the addresses we are comparing. But whereas in strings class, see here, string X is there, string Y is there. For strings, we are calling the hash code method. So in string class also, we will have one more hash code method. If you go into that, let me show you. So this is the string class. In string class also, we have hash code method. They have written some logic here in order to generate the hash code. So for strings, when you call the hash code, it will call the hash code method of the string class. For objects, if you call the hash code method, it will call the object method of the, hash code method of the object. So these are two different things. Object class will have hash code method and equals method. String class also will have the hash code method and equals method. Let me make it big. Okay, so the logic which they have implemented is, you can see here, they have written the logic here. What is the logic? S of 0 into 31 to the power of n minus 1, length minus 1. Or I have told you the like minus 1, minus 2. Instead of that, I have told you indexes. So this is the logic which they have used to generate the hash code in strings class. In string class, they have used this logic. They have used the multiplying factor of 31 to the power of n minus 1, where n is the length of the string. N minus 1, n minus 2, n minus 3. And what is S of 0, S of 1? Those are the characters. S of 0 is the first, the character of the string at index 0. S of 1 means the character of the string S at index 1. So they are multiplying with 31 to 31 is the multiplying factor to the power of n minus 1. So this is the logic which they have implemented to generate the hash code for strings. So that logic they have implemented like this. Okay. So I don't want to go much deep into this one. So this is the logic they have used in strings to generate the hash code. Now let's see the equals method of string. Let's go to the equals method. Yeah, we got it. So this is the equals method, which is returning Boolean value. First, what they are doing, they are comparing the addresses. So this will hold the information of the object which is calling this method, and this is the parameter an object. So they are comparing these two. If it is returning, if those two address locations are same, then directly they are returning true. If the address locations are different, then they are writing the logic here. So what they will do, first they will then generate the hash code. Even if if the hash codes are same, then the value returned will be true. If the hash codes are different, then they will return the false. So this is the logic behind the equals method of string. If you see if you have properly observed the equals method of object, they are doing only the comparison of addresses. So only this part they have done. They didn't check the content of the object. But whereas in string class, they are checking the addresses and also the content. Both are verified for strings. Clear, all of you? So that is the difference. That is why here, even if the content of these objects are same, but still it will return that the objects are not equal. That is the reason why even if the content of these objects are same, it will return as false. Whereas for strings, it will return true. So if you want to override the equals method or hash code method, so here in this example, the hash code they have generated using some logic. So the hash code of HP1 is something like this, the hash code of HP2 is something like this. But if I want to write my own hash code, I want to write my own hash code. So what I will do, I'll go to this class hash code parameters. In this class, I will write my own method called hashcode. Public hashcode will have to return the integer, so I'll write int hashcode. So this is the method hashcode. Why it is throwing? 1 second. Let me return some value. I'll return for now. I'll return 0. Okay. So this is the hashcode method. Here I want to return some value, right? So that for every hash, if I'm writing the return type as int, I have to return some value. But here I have to write the logic. What logic I have to use in order to return the hash code, which I feel as unique thing. So in my class here, I feel Aadhaar is unique. The entered Aadhaar number is unique. So that is why in my hash code method, I will return Aadhaar. So this is my new hash code. Let me save this program. So I have written my own hash code method where I am returning Aadhaar number because I feel this is my logic. So whatever I want to write here, I can write. So in this example, I feel that Aadhaar is the unique number. So I want to return the Aadhaar as my hash code. Now, if you go to the main class, hash code objects, and if you run this program, can somebody tell me what will be the output at line number 26? So previously, the line 26 returned the output. The hash code of HP1 is equal to this and hash code for HP2 is this. But now it will not call the hash code method of object class. So it will not call the object class hash code method. This method will not be invoked because we have overridden this hash code. We have overridden this hash code in our class. So we have written this method. Sorry, where is that? 1 second. So we have overridden this method. Hash code we have written in our child class. So for object, there is an exception. Like no need to use extends keyword like this. By default, so generally if you want to if you want to make one class as your parent and this class as a child, you need to use the extends keyword. Then only this class will act as a parent and this class will act as a child. But for object, by default, no need to use this extends. By default, extend is the parent and all the classes, whatever you create in Java, that will be the child classes. So no need to do that. So other than object class, for any other class, if you want to override any method, you have to use the extends keyword. Then only you can override any method. But for object, no need to do that for object class. So here directly we are overriding a hash code method of this object class. So now what will happen? Whenever you run this program and now you are trying to print the hash code using the object HP1. That means we are using the object HP1 of class hashcode parameters and calling hashcode method. So if, before overwriting that method, it will call the object class hashcode method. But now you have overwritten the hashcode method in this class. So now it will call this method, and in this method you are returning the Aadhaar number. So let me run this program and show you the difference. Why it is not called? 1 second. Oh, the letters are different. It is hash code. C is capital. But here I have written C as small. So this is case sensitive. So that is the reason it didn't call this method. Okay, let me save this one. And now run this program. See, for HP1, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the Aadhaar number that is returned for the HP1 dot hash code. For HP2, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the hash code. And when you call the hash code method using the HP2 object, it returns same 1, 2, 3, 4. To show you the difference, let me add few more numbers here. Okay, now let me run this program. So for HP1, the Aadhaar number is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is returned as hash code. For HP2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the Aadhaar number. So that will be returned as the hash code. Is it clear till now? Any confusion or any doubts till now? As of now, we didn't override the equals method. We didn't override the equals method, only hash code method. How we can write our own hash code method. Just one small example I have shown you how we can override the hash code method of object class. No need to use the extends keyword because by default it will be a parent. So use extends keyword. If you want to override any method of any other class, you have to use the extends keyword. You have to use the extends keyword and class name, then it will allow you to override that particular method. Okay. So till now, if you have any doubts, you can. Otherwise, we'll go with equals, how to override this equals method. Hello. Yeah. Okay. So anybody having any doubts till now? Shall we move to equals method?
Okay.
Okay. So in equals method, we have to remember all the points we have discussed. So equals, so other, even though if our hash code is same, equals method will compare the content, right? So now we have to write our logic for equals method. So let me write public boolean because equals will method will return either true or false. So boolean return type will be boolean and equals. Here I have to pass an object. Object obj. Right? I will add the return statement. For now, let me return true. Okay. We will modify it later. For now, we will write the logic. First, what we have to do, if this is equal to obj, then directly return true. We are comparing the addresses. So addresses, if they are equal, okay, not equal, suppose not equal, then directly we can return as false. Sorry for that. If it is not equals, it is not equal. If this the address of this keyword is not equal to obj's address, if the addresses are different, then directly we can return false. No need to write any no need to proceed further. If addresses are not equal, directly we can return false. Okay. Else if any of this object, either this is equal to null. So whatever the object is calling this method, if it is equal to null, then return false. Otherwise, else if obj equal to null, return false. If any one of the object, like either this, so I don't think this is feasible because the object which null cannot call this method. So this cannot be null. Whatever parameter we are passing here, this parameter, if it is equal to null, then return false. We cannot compare an object with null. So I am telling the scenario like this. So 1 second. I am telling a scenario like this. So if HP1 dot equals of null. If I am trying to do like this, then what should be returned? HP1 is an object, right? Object for this class, and we are comparing it with null. In this case, what should be returned? Can somebody tell me? In this case, what should be the return value? We are comparing an object with null. Can somebody tell me the output of this? What should be the return value? It should be false, right? Because HP1 is an object which is real-time existence. Null means nothing. We cannot compare these two things, right? Null means nothing, but HP1 is an object. So we cannot do comparison like this. In this case, what we have to do, we have to return false. That is what we are doing here. If object is whatever the parameter we are passing, if it is equal to null, then return false. Like this, we have lot of scenarios. Else if, I'll write one more, 1 second. Else if this dot class, this dot get class, if it is not equal to obj dot get class, that means the class names are different, then return false. This scenario means, what does this mean? Because if you are trying to compare, so previously we tried to compare H1 with H4, right? H4 is a class object of class Hashcode demo. H1 is object of class Hashcode objects. That means the classes of these two objects are different. In that case, we have to return false, right? So Hashcode demo, the H4 object is the object of class Hashcode demo. H1 is object of the class Hashcode objects. The classes are different. The classes of these objects are different. In that case, what we have to return? We have to return false. That means we cannot make comparison of objects of two different classes. That is what we are comparing. If this dot get class is not equal to object dot get class, or sorry, if they, yes, if this dot get class is not equal to object dot get class, then we have to return false. So like this, we can write any number of conditions here. We can write our own logic for equals method. So I have shown you three different scenarios. The first thing is comparing the address locations. If address locations are not same, then return false. The second thing is the parameter which is passed here, if it is equal to null, then return false. The third one is if the classes of, if we are trying to compare the objects of two different classes, the class names are different, then return false. So like this, we'll have lot of options. We can write our own logic, whatever we want. This is how we override the equals method. So now if you do a compare, if you want to check system.out.println, this is the equals method of Hashcode parameters. If you want to get the difference whether object class equals method is called or Hashcode parameters equals method is called. So I have given this system.out.println, and now if you run this one, sorry, where is that? This one. If you are running this one, you will get to know the difference. Now what we have to do? We have to check the content. See, till now whatever we have done is checking the address locations, checking if the parameter which we passed is null. In that case, it will return false. And the other one is the class names. If the class names are different, then also we should return false. Now what we have to do? We have to check the contents. So contents of these objects. So how we can check the contents of these objects? That we will write the code here. First thing is, this is of type object. First, we have to convert this object to Hashcode parameters. So whatever parameter we passed here, it will be of type object. The class of it is super class. Now we have to convert it to Hashcode parameters. Now first we will do that and then we can compare it. Okay. hash code parameters. How we will do the conversion is HP is equal to one second. This is how we convert. We are converting OBJ to hash code parameters. OBJ is of type object, which is superclass. In order to compare the content with this, we need to convert this OBJ of type object to hash code parameters. That is what we have to do here. Okay. So for that, I have converted OBJ to hash code parameters. This is the line for conversion. Now we can directly compare the content. How we can compare the content? If this dot Aadhaar is equal to HP dot Aadhaar. If these two are equal, and inside this, if this dot name is equal to this dot, obj dot, hp dot name. If these both conditions are met, then return true. What we are doing here, we are comparing this dot other, the object which is calling this method, that information, that object's Aadhaar is equal to the OBJ object's Aadhaar. We are comparing two things, right? So this dot Aadhaar is equal to HP dot Aadhaar. And inside that, if that is true, if Aadhaar numbers are matching, it will go inside this if block, and then it will compare the names. So we have two parameters. The first one is Aadhaar and the second one is name. So first we have compared Aadhaar. If the Aadhaars of two objects are equal, then we are comparing the name. If the names are equal, both the Aadhaar and names are equal, then return true. Otherwise, so finally you have to return the false. If these two conditions are met, then only return true. Otherwise, return false. Is it clear till now? Now, if you run your program, if you run this program, you will get output as the two objects are same. Even the one, the Aadhaars are equal, right? Here Aadhaars are equal and contents are equal. Now you will get HP1 is equal to HP2. Let me compare these two, HP1 and HP2. I have to use the call the equals method. So HP1 dot equals of HP2. If I compare these two, now your output will be the two objects are equal, because we have overridden the equals method in our child class. In that child class objects equals method, we are checking the content also. We are checking the content also. So now it should return true for this. It will return true and it will display the two objects are equal. Let me run this one. It has called the hash code parameter, the equals method of hash code parameters. Now let's see why it is returning that two objects are different still. Gave the same content. Why it is returning true? Why it is returning false? OBJ is equal to null. Classes are also same. me change this one. Just a second. Or, it should go inside this. Let me write the system.out and inside this system.out and let me just a minute. Yes. Now you can see I made one small change here. So instead of not equal to object, I just gave equal to object and return true. So this is the only one small change I have done. So here in this case, what we are doing, we are checking even the content as well. If the contents are same, there is no logic why it is returning that false. So in our previous scenario, we call the equals method of object. This will return as false. Will still say that these two objects are different. Now we have overridden that in our child class. We have overridden this equals method. Here, there we checked the content as well. The content of these objects. If the content is same, then we can say that these two objects are equal. So let me now check with the different content. So the other of first one is 1, 2, 3, 4. The other of second object is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if I check, if I run this, it will return the two objects are different. It will return the two objects are different. Suppose now, what if I give one of the value as null? So one of the parameter value is null. I didn't handle it here. So if the one of the value is null, we didn't handle it, how it will work now. Let's see. One of the value, I am making it as null. If I run this program, still it will show the objects are different. The objects are different. Clear, all of you? All of you, is it clear or is it complex? If you want to override, this is up to you. For objects, we have overridden. For strings, it is already ready for you. In string class, they have made a perfect code. So it will check the content and how the content will be checked using the hash code technique. So they have used their own logic to override this equals method. But whereas for objects, in the object class, it will not check the content. It will check only the object references. If you want to check the content also, then you have to override this equals method. You have to override this equals method. No need to worry if you forget, even if you are not able to write this much of code also, you don't need to worry. Even for hash code generation also, no need to worry. Eclipse has done lot of favor. So what you can do is, you can just simply right click. Here you have an option source. You can select this one, generate hash code and equals method. So it will automatically generate the equals and hash code method by using the parameters. What are the parameters here? Aadhaar and name. So by using these two parameters, it will automate. No need to write this complete logic. It is not needed. I have shown you, I have written this for your understanding why we need all these things. For your understanding, I have explained all this one. But by default, Eclipse will provide you that. Just go right click, go to source, generate hash code and equals method. It will automatically generate for you. So let me click on this one. Yes. So it already has this equals method. So for these two parameters, you need to generate the hash code and equals method. So click on generate. So it has generated the, let me control Z. Okay. First, let me comment this one for your better understanding. Okay, I have commented this one. Now let me generate the getters and setters, sorry, hash code and equals. Okay, see. So it has overridden the hash code of the object class. So it has generated using this Aadhaar, using the parameters Aadhaar and name, integer parameter Aadhaar and string parameter name, it will generate some hash code. So by default, Eclipse will do some logic for that and it will generate, it will return the hash code. The same thing for equals method. So whatever we have written the code, like it is checking the addresses first. If the two addresses are same, it will return true. It will check if the parameter, whatever we passed, if it is null, then return false. It is checking the get class method, classes. If two classes are different, then return false. Now here it is converting obj to hash code parameters. This is the line for converting obj to hash code parameters. Then it is returning finally if the Aadhaar and of these two objects are equal and name of these two objects are equal, then return the true. Otherwise, return false. So whatever we have discussed here, the same thing, it will do it here. So no need to remember all these things and do. Eclipse has provided you an option to generate the hash code and equals method. So if you just click generate hash code and equals, it will generate for you if you want to override these two things. Clear all of you? But I want to explain each and everything, how you can override this equals method, because this is the logic which we are going to use in hash map. Maps will work, key value pair, it will work mainly with hash code and equals method. So that is why I want to clearly show you what is hash code and equals method and how you can override it for objects. Any doubts in this part?